afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me on Community Conversations 2021. It's really a great pleasure for me to be here to highlight the importance of mates helping mates, the importance of the PCFA support groups, how you can become involved, and how you can assist others who are going through the prostate cancer journey. Having experienced that myself, I know how tough it is for many men and their families when they're diagnosed with prostate cancer and all the treatments. So this section this afternoon is really all about how we can assist each other. It really is important. Just a reminder about prostate cancer. It's a really significant disease, as all of you who are tuning into this webinar today would know. In Australia, just over 18,000 men are diagnosed each year. Around 3,300 men, unfortunately, lose their life every year from prostate cancer. And there's 230,000 men living with prostate cancer. And that can be a challenge too. I'm one of those 230,000 men, and it's important that we're all living well and supporting each other. Sadly, the risk of suicide increases after diagnosis, especially for men with no support. And that's a real worry. Peer support can reduce that psychological stress that's associated with prostate cancer and dealing with the ongoing treatments, which often can be just as distressing as the diagnosis itself. By 2040, we predict that there'll be something like 370,000 men living with and beyond prostate cancer in Australia. And that's a big number. And so those peer support programs are always essential in providing community-based peer support groups and supporting men and their families. What is the value of support groups? They really can't be underestimated. That face-to-face dealing with people and talking to people about prostate cancer is really important. It reduces the feeling of loneliness with dealing with prostate cancer. It's often you might feel like you're the only person that's going through this or part of the treatment. When men get involved in a support group, they don't feel as isolated. They do feel supported. They meet others who've been there. And that is really important, to be able to discuss with other men who've had the same sort of treatment or might be struggling with the same sort of issues and concerns, and to be able to talk that through is important. Get tips, hear what others have done that's worked for them, and of course receive the ongoing support. And often you can get some relief from some of the fear and depression that really does impact on so many men who are suffering from any sort of cancer, but particularly prostate cancer. A few quotes from some of the support groups about how they feel that their support groups are really making a difference. And there's one that, the regular meetings are an opportunity to help others overcome stressful events. This is a standout point of the success of our group. Friendship and support and assistance with navigating the sea of information and resources available were the group's goals. And that is a real challenge. As many of you watching today will know, there is a sea of information out there, often good information, but often some that's not so good. And it's really important that you get the information that is correct, that has been researched, and as through the PCFA website and through the support groups, that the information that you're receiving and the resources that you're receiving have been researched and are accurate. And simply a friendly ear in a time of need. Many men tend not to reach out when they need to, and that's a concern. Even right at the moment in September with the PCFA long run, a goal to run 72 kilometres in the month of September. And a lot of people have asked, why 72 kilometres? It's because men who are suffering from depression and some mental illnesses and thoughts of suicide, those sort of issues, 72% of men don't seek treatment. And that's critical and important and worrying. If you are feeling depressed, a support group is something that is important, and sometimes just picking up the phone and talking to one of the support group members can make a big difference. but it's important that you do reach out and you do talk to people and you do seek help if you are feeling depressed at any time. And as I said, having gone through surgery and radiation for my prostate cancer, there are times when you really do need to reach out and talk to people about some of the concerns you have. Said, talk to others who have had similar treatments, outcomes, compare and discuss with them. I mean, I've been to many support groups where, they share a lot of comments and discussions about their treatments and their outcomes, and share a laugh or two. I mean, it's a serious subject, but gee, if you can have a bit of a laugh about the things that we have to do and some of the difficulties we've overcome with incontinence and sexual dysfunction, those sort of things, to be able to have a look at the light side of things and have a bit of a laugh with a support group, really does make a difference at different times, and you get the good information from other men of who they've spoken to and what treatments they've had and what success and sometimes not so good success that they can talk about. And really, when you sort of sum up the support groups and what they do, and that it's really to give and receive support. That's what the name is, support groups, to make sure that you understand that if you're out there suffering from prostate cancer or suffering from the treatments of prostate cancer and the side effects, to know that you are not alone, and to be able to speak freely about your concerns. One of the great things of all the support groups that I've ever been to is, it's the old saying, what's said in the meeting stays in the meeting. And I think people can feel very comfortable to, be open about their concerns and have a say. Often the support groups will have great speakers. They'll have medical professionals and others who come along and give up-to-date information about new treatments, new drugs coming online, other information, radio-oncologists and other specialists who do present to the support groups. And that's always interesting and important as well. And no matter how you think you're going, there's always someone else who's doing it tougher. And I've heard some amazing stories from different people who are quite inspiring about how they work their way through some of the issues that they're going through. And as I said earlier, humour does help to lighten things without taking away the serious side of the meetings. Partners and family. When a man is diagnosed with prostate cancer, it not only affects him, it affects his partners, it affects his family and friends as well. But it really does impact on your family. I think one of the hardest things that I remember is having to tell my two sons and their wives that I had prostate cancer. And I guess it's the unknown then. I was quite young at the time. I was 48 when I was diagnosed, and the unknown of what's going to happen when you say you've been diagnosed with cancer does put a lot of fear into your family, and some of your friends don't quite know what to say. So to include partners and families in a support group is really important. And I know most of the support groups around Australia do a wonderful job of including partners and families in their meetings. Some of the groups have separate coffee mornings for the partners, and whilst the prostate cancer meeting is on, often the partners will go and have a separate little meeting with a cup of coffee and discuss some of the issues as well. And it's just that mateship to be able to discuss with other wives and other partners the issues that are impacting on you, because of course diagnosis of prostate cancer, it impacts on your continence, your sexual function. So it does impact on your relationships as well. And it's very, very important to include your partners in the whole prostate cancer journey. And support groups are one way of making sure that your family and your partners are included. Some of the strengths of the groups very much are the shared experiences. When you sit in a room with a whole bunch of blokes that have all been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and some of them have just been diagnosed with prostate cancer and are very concerned about what particular treatments they might be choosing to undertake, watchful waiting or surgery or radiation, a lot of the new treatments that are coming online. So, they're their heads are spinning with all the information about what they should be doing in the future. Then, of course, you've got regulars who've been to the support group for many years, who've been through surgery and radiation and other treatments, who can give advice as well. Most of the support groups certainly don't have a set agenda, and each meeting everyone's equal, everyone's able to get up and say a few words if they want to. The other thing is, of course, sometimes people are happy to come along to meetings, but they're quite private in themselves and often don't want to raise some of their concerns publicly. But I've seen quite often after a meeting, in fact, it's happened to me a couple of times when I've been a guest speaker at some of the meetings, people have come up to you afterwards and are very interested in what you've had to say, and ask a few questions about their own situation as well. So it's an opportunity for them to raise some questions, not always in the public forum. There's other ways that through PCFA that people can get support as well. It's not just the face-to-face support group meetings, because obviously support group meetings are not for everyone, and of course, depending on where you live, you may not have a support group in your area that's convenient to go to. Mates Connect is one way that people are keeping in touch with each other and using peer support. It's a telephone-based support service, and it connects you with someone who's been there before, someone who's been through the treatments that you're looking at undertaking or may have undertaken, having side effects that you're experiencing at the time. And so having a peer support through Mates Connect does ensure that a member of the community is matched to a volunteer, a trained volunteer who's been through a similar experience with prostate cancer. And it certainly, Mates Connect certainly does strengthen our network of support, and does everything it can to prevent depression and possible suicide. So it's really an important service. To connect with a volunteer, our 1-800-22-0099, that's the PCFA number that really is important to connect to Mates Connect. And then, of course, we have other ways of connecting with our community, which is really important. The PCFA online community, I can't emphasize how important that is. It's part of the PCFA website. It's an open community hub. It facilitates online peer-to-peer messaging, and it's got a whole range of information on prostate cancer. It's got research blogs, it's got video galleries, it's got all the webinars that we've produced in recent times up in this online community. It's a very useful information hub, so please take advantage of that. It's very easy to join. You either just go to the PCFA website, or you can join at the www.onlinecommunity.pcfa.org.au website. If you just go to the PCFA website and click on the online community, if you haven't been there before, it'll ask you to create a password, and you'll be into that community. But I really recommend to anyone who might be watching today, who particularly might have just been diagnosed with prostate cancer and wants a little bit more information, that's a really useful hub. We do have, of course, the PCFA Prostate Cancer Specialist Telenurse service. This is a relatively new service and is just fantastic. Many of you may have heard that we have around more than 80 prostate cancer specialist nurses around Australia now, all located in major cities and regional towns around Australia. And again, if anyone's been diagnosed with prostate cancer recently, please ask if there's a prostate cancer specialist nurse in your area, if they haven't already made contact with you, because they are such a wonderful assistance to anyone and their families who are going through a prostate cancer diagnosis. But obviously, you can't have a prostate cancer nurse in every town and every city in Australia. So we've established a telenursing service, which is a fantastic service. Again, just ring the 1-800-22-0099 phone line, ask to be put through to a prostate cancer specialist nurse, and you'll be connected to someone who is fully qualified and who will be able to assist you. I mean, that's the difference, I guess, with the prostate cancer support groups. We are mates helping mates. We're not medical professionals in the support groups, and we don't for 1 minute consider trying to give medical advice to people. That's the difference when you talk to a prostate cancer specialist nurse. They can understand what you're going through, and they can give you medical advice and refer you to areas where you might have great treatment, that sort of thing, and give you very good advice. So I do recommend, if you haven't got a prostate cancer nurse in your community, to ring up and talk to a prostate cancer telenurse if you feel that you need further advice. There are so many ways to connect, and I really do ask everyone out there, if you need to talk to someone, if you need information, please contact us through the PCFA website. As I said, join the PCFA online community. PCFA is pretty active on social media for those that are active in that area: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And we do have a PCFA Prostate Cancer Support Group closed Facebook group. If you just go to our Facebook page, you'll see the groups there, and click on that. That's working quite well as well. But there's lots of areas where you should be talking to each other, getting support and getting information. I know that there's an opportunity for people to ask questions. I've seen a couple of questions come through today, and I guess we don't have a lot of time to answer questions today, but we'll make sure we get answers to those questions for you. But one of the questions I just saw come through was in relation to mates helping mates and support groups, and how do the support groups keep in touch in a COVID environment, particularly as it's speaking at the moment with New South Wales and Victoria pretty much in lockdown. It's been very difficult for the groups to meet face to face, and it's a really good question. We've encouraged many of our groups to meet via Zoom, and a lot of them are doing that. And whilst it's not quite the same as meeting face to face in a room, it's the second best thing, really. And I've been very impressed with a lot of our groups in New South Wales and Victoria particularly, who have continued to meet, continued to help people, continue to support prostate cancer patients, through the meetings of Zoom. And in some ways, you can expand what you're doing with your support group with Zoom, because you can invite guest speakers who may not be in the same town as you, or they may not even be in the same state or the same country. So often you can get other guests to come in on your Zoom meeting. So that's one way that our support groups are staying together and supporting each other. So really, thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. I hope that you found this presentation interesting and useful to you. It is, I just can't emphasize how important it is to talk to each other, to support each other. And in closing, I just want to thank all of our 130 prostate cancer support groups all around Australia. I know many of you in those groups will be listening to this presentation today, or maybe seeing it later on in a recording. I do want to thank each and every one of you who manages our support groups, runs our support groups. All of you are volunteers. All of you are absolutely passionate about getting the word out there about prostate cancer awareness and supporting those men and their families who are going through what can be a pretty difficult prostate cancer diagnosis and treatment journey. So again, thank you very much.